Hi, I'm Krista with Playing with a Purpose. Today I thought I'd share with you a few simple ideas I have for my nursery rhyme theme. So I have this little Discovery Toys toy, and it has all sorts of different shapes inside, and it happens to have a little mouse. And so we're starting this week with Hickory Dickory Dock, and as we recite the poem, I like to just add a couple of visual elements so that the children are more engaged in the poem. So it starts off by, Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, the mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock. And then as you recite it, you can have the children come up and they can all have a turn running the mouse up and down the clock. So there's some key concepts that they're learning throughout this poem. They're learning up and down. You can point out the number 1. The children that I care for right now are 1 and 2-year-olds, so they're very young. So it still just provides an extra opportunity to give them more vocabulary words. So depending on the ages of your group, you may have to make some of the activities a little harder or a little bit easier for them, so it suits your group. So my class does show and tell. We typically do it once a week, and so for this week I asked the parents to help their child find a show and tell that has numbers on it. So one of the children brought a telephone. We talked about how there was numbers on the telephone, and there's also numbers on our clock. The 2-year-old that brought this phone, we looked at the numbers together and we tried to match. Well, he knew the number 3, and so I asked him if he could find the number 3 on our clock. So he pointed to the number 3. So we noticed that there was a 3 on the phone, and there was also a 3 on the clock. So it's a simple idea, but because they brought something from their own home, they have more invested into their learning. One of the other children brought a book with numbers. So again, we did the same sort of thing, and we just noticed that there was numbers on both their book and on the clock. And again, someone else brought a bag full of little wooden cars, and on the cars there are numbers. And last child brought a puzzle, and the puzzle has numbers. So this is just a simple way to incorporate learning and recognizing numbers. The next idea I have is I found these little clocks at the Dollar Tree. I gave each child their own little clock, and I have these Hape wooden numbers. You may use magnet letters, you can use stickers, you can laminate some of your own numbers. It doesn't really matter how you do it. I just chose to use this, and then I have a wooden tray, and I also have this dice that has blank spots, and it's a dry erase board. So you can write numbers with a dry erase marker. Sometimes I find when I use it, it rubs off, so sometimes I like to put stickers on and then just peel them off when I'm finished. What I like to do is lay out the numbers in the tray, and then every child gets a clock, and then they take turns rolling the dice, and like I said, just add a little sticker, a number sticker, or write it with a dry erase marker. So what the children are going to do is they're going to roll the dice, and whatever number shows up, they're going to look for the number in the wooden box. Let's just say they got a number 3. So what they would do then is they would look for the number 3, and then I asked them to see if they could find it on their clocks. So it's another simple idea. My 2-year-olds were able to do this fairly well. One of them had a little bit of trouble, but the other 2-year-olds were able to do it, and they loved doing this activity. The last activity I have for Hickory Dickory Dock is I have this game that I picked up called Play and Learn Hickory Dickory Dock. So the concept is each child gets a clock, and it's a puzzle, so they put it together and they have that sitting in front of them. And there's different colors, so there's a red one, a blue one, a yellow one, and a green one. So what they're going to do is they're going to roll the dice, and they're going to move their mouse the same number of spaces that the dice shows. So if they get a 3, they're going to count 1, 2, 3. Now at this age, my children aren't able to do one-to-one correspondence yet, so it's just more of a practicing, and they like the idea of moving their mouse. This game didn't actually come with numbers. These were blank. For younger children, again, I would use this dice, and I would put some stickers on here so that they could, again, match the number. But as the children get older, they can use a dice like this, and they can practice their one-to-one correspondence by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we would help them move their mouse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's lots of ways you can play this game, but sometimes you need to adapt the game in order for it to work for the ages of your group. So for me, that was just simply adding some numbers on the clocks. For Humpty Dumpty, we simply recited the poem in the block area. So in my block center right now, I have these Melissa and Doug cardboard blocks. And so we practiced reciting Humpty Dumpty. And the first time, when it was time for Humpty Dumpty to have a great fall off the wall. The next few times we recited it, each child had an opportunity to let Humpty Dumpty fall off the wall. This just allows the children to be more engaged in listening to the poem. Each time I add props, I find the children more and more excited for circle time. A few other cute props to add to your block center during Humpty Dumpty is some king's horses and some men. I gave them each an egg with a face and some red blocks, and they just simply glued their blocks and their egg onto their paper. So it's a super simple activity. Richard Scarry is one of my favorite authors, and in this Mother Goose storybook we have Little Boy Blue, and so we recited this at one of our circles. Little boy blue, come blow your horn. The sheep's in the meadow, the cow's in the corn. Where is the boy who looks after the sheep? He's under the haystack, fast asleep. One of the key concepts we want the children to learn is the word under. He's under the haystack. For a follow-up activity, I print off a picture of a haystack. I actually had a copy of this in one of my mailbox magazines that I had from years ago. And we need some yellow paint and a fork. And I just have the children dip their forks into the paint, and they can paint the hay on their paper. And when it's dry, I have the children pretend they're sleeping. I actually have a selfie printer, so I had the children lie down on the floor and pretend to sleep. They thought this was pretty funny. So then I printed them out, and we cut themselves out, and we were able to put, and then what we did was we cut the haystack out, and then we cut themselves out, and we put them under the haystack, and we just added the poem on top of the sheet as well. It ends up turning out really sweet, and it's a nice little keepsake for parents to keep from their preschool years. So the last idea I have for you is pat a cake. So like I said, I have a very young group right now. I have a multi-age classroom, so I can have anywhere between age 1 and 4. And so right now I just happen to have a very young group. So last year all my children graduated, and now I have a new group that's 1 and 2 year olds. So for the younger students, we recited pat a cake, baker's man. Bake me a cake as fast as you can. Roll it, pat it, prick it, and mark it with a B, and put it in the oven for baby and me. So what we did at circle time for this is I just simply drew a B on our whiteboard, and we talked a little about the letter B, and I brought up some special markers for them to use, and they each came up to the board and practiced writing the letter B on the whiteboard. Now, of course, my babies and even my toddlers don't always trace, but that's okay. They can just come up to the board. It gives them an experience to come and be participants in our circle. So for a very simple art activity, I printed up a cake. I just got it off Google Images, and then I gave them some bingo dabbers, and they decorated their cake. So after they were dry, I just stapled them to a colored sheet of paper. And I added the poem to the bottom. So instead of marking it with a B, I used the first initial of their name and their name in the poem. So this one is pat a cake, baker's man. Bake me a cake as fast as you can. Pat it, prick it, and mark it with an E, and put it in the oven for Emma and me. And then when they finish this activity tomorrow, they will be adding the first initial of their name with a sticker, and they'll add it to their cake. So it's super simple, and they're gonna love it. I find anytime you add their name into a song or a story, you just have their full attention. I hope these activities were helpful to you and that you'll be able to enjoy some of them in your classroom. So I'm Krista with Playing with a Purpose.